Stocks, bonds, ETFs, straight out of downtown Chicago. This is Zacks Market Edge.
Welcome to Zacks Market Edge, the podcast about investing in your life. I'm your host, Tracy Reineck, and this week I'm going solo to talk about some red hot stocks that might be secrets. You might not know about them because so much energy and focus is on the Mag 7, specifically NVIDIA, but including the other Mag 7s who are mostly, but not all of them, also racing to new highs. So what can you buy outside of the Mag 7? That's what I've been wondering in the last couple of weeks, because it can't just be the Mag 7 that is trading at or near their 52-week highs. And sure enough, when I did a screen on this on Zacks.com, I discovered there's many more stocks than you might think that are trading at or near their 52-week highs. Now, some may also be at their all-time highs like NVIDIA is, but I screened for just 52-week, which I feel is doing pretty good, and that those stocks are having some momentum here if they're at the 52-week high as well. So what did I screen for? I screened for stocks trading within 3% of their 52 weeks highs. And I got, let me look, 406 stocks. And so that's a lot of stocks. I was surprised. And it's just too many. I'm not going to scroll down the list of 406 stocks, right? We only want to look for stocks that are the best. So I added the Zacks rank, because that's the easiest way to knock that number down. But I didn't do just number ones or number twos. I also included number threes because we are basically after the last earnings season. And so we're just about to head into the next one. And so a lot of the ranks have been changing in recent weeks, but a lot of the estimates on stocks, those that are early in the earnings season, were changed many weeks ago. So some of those that might have had good Zacks rankiness even a month or 2 months ago now have kind of settled in the middle. And that's what the number three holds really are. About 80% of the Zacks ranked stocks are number threes, are the holds. And that's because they kind of just settle there while we await the next earnings season and the analysts to revise their earnings estimates once again. So nothing wrong with the number threes. That's why I included them here, because I still want to see those stocks that have a good earnings outlook, but maybe the estimates were changed, 5-6 weeks ago. So the rank, again, has just kind of fallen there right in the middle. But when I added the rank to this screen, which is, again, just the basic, how many companies are trading within 3% of their 52-week high, I got 191 stocks still with the Zacks of ranks of number one, which is the strong buy, number two, which is the buy, and then number three, which are the holds. So by adding the number threes, it did add on quite a few more stocks. But again, I did want to see those number threes on the list. However, when I was scrolling through the list to pick out 5 names to kind of take a look at, I did tend to focus more on the number ones and number twos because they got the little green numbers on there that really makes them stand out because those are the buys and the strong buys. So why not go for the number ones and number two if I'm going to have this huge list to look at? So I mainly stuck with those, and it wasn't hard to do. There were plenty of those at number ones and number twos. But I did take a look at a few number threes, because just because you have the number one or number two rank doesn't mean it's really a hot stock necessarily. Yes, it's trading within 3% of its 52-week high. But remember, for some stocks, last year was not all that great. I'm thinking of, say the banks. They had the banking crisis go on, and then the stocks fell, and then they've been rising. So it's not that hard for some bank stocks to get near their 52-week high once again. So there were some banks on this list, but those stocks aren't really red hot like I was looking for. I was really looking for companies that are beating the S&P 500 year to date, or hopefully over the last 1 or 2 years. And so I mainly picked my way through the lists until I found stocks that met that criteria as well. So I didn't really screen for that part of it of, beating the S&P 500 over that period. So I did just have to pick and choose and take a look at some of the charts on there. But I had no trouble finding these 5 companies. And I call them kind of secret because, again, they're not the Mag 7s. Some are well-known companies that you have heard of, but they're not really on anyone's radar. And I'm not really seeing many people talking about them. It's not like they're on the, financial websites all the time because so much energy is being focused into NVIDIA, the AI trade, and just the Mag 7 in general. It's kind of, taking up all the oxygen in the room, but keep your eye on these 5 stocks because they have solid Zacks ranks, and we're going to take a look at it here in a moment. And they are still red hot. And maybe there's still some more upside momentum in these stocks, especially with these earnings reports coming up soon. So what are these kind of secret red hot stocks? Let's take a look. Okay, the first one, and I'm going to share my screen now. For those of you watching, you can check it out. For those of you listening, I'm going to try to tell you what I'm seeing on Zacks.com. So the first one is in retail, Burlington Stores, ticker BURL. Now, I was kind of surprised to see this on the list because while it had a fantastic period after and during the pandemic, when we all went out shopping again and these stocks all took off, Burlington Stores has been hot for a while. But starting in April of this year, it really sold off. And so I wasn't really paying attention. I knew it had come down off of its highs, and I thought maybe the trend was over. But I was wrong. The stock has resumed its takeoff again and has retaken the old highs. So let's take a look at, let's just take a look at my favorite all-time chart, the price and consensus chart, because this will kind of show what's going on with those earnings estimates and what's going on with the chart. Now, you can see this stock actually topped out in 2021. And then I did remember a couple of these big sell-offs. Like I said, last year's one I remember. Here's in April, it plunged back down. It keeps hitting these same lows in 2022. It tested it again or almost tested it again in 2023. And now it's taken off again. So it is near those 52-week highs. But not at the all-time highs, as you can see. But look at these earnings growth expected here on the price of consensus. These are some big lines, big spaces between them, which is indicating to me, just looking at this, that the earnings growth is looking pretty phenomenal. And then you have these little upticks here in the earnings consensus lines, both for 2025 and 2026, even here a bit for 2024. And that indicates the analysts are getting more bullish. Their estimate is actually rising there. So Burlington Stores is a Zacks number 2, which is the buy ranking. So what is going on with the stock just in terms of its return? Year to date, it's up 24.4%. S&P 500 is up 14.5%. Over the 2-year stack, it's now up 51%, S&P up 39.7%. But it's been a pretty wild ride over the 2-year stack. And you've had to be super patient, maybe dollar cost averaging while it's up and down and up and down and all over the place. So, you had to be super patient. Let's take a look at the detailed estimates just to get a handle on what kind of earnings growth this is expected to have. When looking at that chart, sometimes you can't really tell. So scrolling down, this fiscal year, 25.4%, next year, 22.7%. This makes sense based on that price and consensus chart we just saw with the wide spacing in between the years. That is solid earnings growth. For sure, double digits, even before I looked at it, but I'm not surprised it's over 20% for both years. So this is pretty impressive. Burlington Stores, a lot of apparel and, items like that. will the consumer be pulling back on that? The analysts don't think so with this kind of earnings growth and even sales growth of 9.5% this fiscal year and 10.5% next year. That's pretty solid too for a retailer. So Burlington Stores, one of the red hot stocks that no one is really talking about here. Okay, the next company I want to talk about, I know I've talked about it many times on the Earnings All-Stars videos. It is one of my favorites on the Earnings All-Stars, and it's Cintas. They are the uniform maker, ticker C as in cat, T as in Tom, A as in Adam, S as in Sam. CTAS. And if you're watching on the video, you can see that it's a Zacks number 2 rank. I see here, we didn't look at the style scores. I didn't screen for those, but it is a D on value. Not surprising. It's been very expensive since the stock keeps running. PE of 43 now. Wow, 43. That's even higher than I recall the last time I looked at it. We're scrolling down. We are still on the detailed estimates page. And this year, of this fiscal year, 15% earnings growth. So it's still doing double digits. And next year, 9.7%. So almost double digits that year. It's kind of shocking. They're still able to do this kind of earnings growth. Kudos to Cintas and its management. Here's the price and consensus chart. Wow. You got to love this. Up and to the right. And with the solid, double digit earnings growth expected. And it's been doing it for a while. No surprise, the shares are at the all-time highs. So year to date, up 18%, S&P 500 again, up 14, and 2 years up 87.5%. My only issue with Cintas is really valuation, but so far the street hasn't seemed to mind, and it still keeps pushing these shares higher. That's what makes it such a red hot stock and a secret one, because I've never heard anybody except myself really talking about Cintas. But kudos to the management and to all the shareholders over the last 5 years. It's really paid off for you and Cintas. So that's Cintas, the uniform makers. CTAS is the ticker. Then we're going to switch over to travel, because travel continues to be hot. It was coming out of the pandemic, and it still is. So I chose Hilton Worldwide. They are in my Zacks Insider Trader. And so that's when I kind of started paying attention to them. They are a number 3 now. But remember, like I said, a lot of these companies reported a while ago. So the rank has kind of just settled there in the middle. So that's the hold. PE of 30 now. But what does these detailed estimates look like? So 2024, double digits earnings growth here as well. 13.9% and 16.3% for next year. That's solid. And you're not getting it cheap, but that's not what we're looking for. Price and consensus chart also looking good, up and to the right here as well. Growth not quite as strong as a few of the charts we just were looking at, but still nice earnings growth nevertheless. And look at that 2026. We're starting to get a few analyst estimates for 2026 coming in the door. And that is looking like nice earnings growth again going forward. Now, these shares at the 5-year highs, as you can see, year to date up 18.3%, 2-year stack up 84.6%. So very similar to Cintas there over the 2-year period. S&P up 39.7. That's not too shameful for the S&P either, right? 39.7 over a 2-year stack, but we're talking 84.6% for Hilton. So another red hot stock that I rarely heard talked about by much of anyone, really. Okay, then we're going to switch over to a company I was not aware of. So this one is real secretive. It's got a market cap of just $4.4 billion. So it's not a small cap, but that is on the smaller mid cap size. And it's called Matson, ticker M as in Mary, A as in Adam, T as in Tom, X as in X-ray. Did I ever give the Hilton ticker? It's H as in Harry, L as in Larry, T as in Tom for Hilton. But Matson, MATX. And it's a Zacks #1 rank. So that's kind of why I checked it out. I'm like, what is this Matson company? Again, it is a smaller mid cap with 4.4 billion market cap, but this is one of those old style companies that I tend to like. So somehow the rank always keeps finding them for me. It was founded in 1882. So it's, that's pretty old. And they do ocean transportation and logistics. So their main part of the ocean transportation is providing basically delivery to Hawaii, Guam, and Alaska, plus Micronesia. So think about it. Think about how you're getting your groceries in Hawaii, or maybe even your mail or anything delivered to you. It's got to come either by plane or by boat. And so that's what they do. They also have a logistics business in those areas, but that also extends to the continental United States as well. And they do like Asia supply chain services. So this is a complete kind of transportation logistics firm in interesting parts of the world is what I would describe it. So we do have the Zacks #1 rank, as I mentioned earlier. So that's a strong buy. It has this PE of just 12.9 times. So I was kind of intrigued by that. Let's scroll down. We only have one analyst estimate on it for the sales. We have two on the earnings. And that person has just raised their estimate in the last 7 days. So that's why we got the good Zacks rankiness on this one. We have someone raising, it's in confirmation, and the Zacks rank loves that. So 21% earnings growth this year, up to 10.11 from 8.32 last year. But next year, analysts still expecting it to pull back a bit by 11% back to 8.92. So I'm not sure what's going on that they're able to get a premium this year, but not next year. But the analyst did raise again for next year. So he's getting a little bit more optimistic. And you can see it's gone from 8.50 to 8.92 just in the last week for next year. And then look at this for this year, 8.75 all the way up to 10.11. So what have they found out here? This analyst, somebody has said something, or the company raised their guidance. Somebody has done something, because that's just too dramatic. If we scroll down, we can see they only beat last quarter by 5 cents. And they have historically only been beating by a couple cents here. So to suddenly raise, almost $1.50 or whatever this is, for the full year is pretty dramatic. Obviously, they also raised this coming quarter pretty dramatically, and the next 2 quarters, actually. So something good is going on here. What does the price and consensus look like? Must be pretty good. No, it's all over the place. This is kind of what can happen when you only have one analyst on it. And they've basically been pretty consistent on their earnings. So they were around that 8.32, maybe to 8.75 area. So now it going up to 10.11 is going to be a weird little breakout here. And we're not even really depicting it accurately on this chart yet, but the stock seems to know what's going on. So year to date, up 18.7%, 2 years up 82.5%. So the stock has been running for some time. It did have a low there in 2023. But now it's been running, and it's been running ahead of this earnings. So all these earnings chart, the lines on the chart are hanging out right around the same area. So this is not a good price and consensus chart like we normally have seen with the other companies. This is not one I would normally look at and go, wow, it's fantastic. And I can see why the stock is red hot and at all-time highs. But things seem to be changing there based on what the revisions are to those earnings estimates. So that's why you got to actually take a look. You can't just look at the Zacks rank, assume you believe what's going to be happening with the chart and with the price and consensus chart in particular. You have to take a closer look. And for this one, you really would have to take a closer look to see if the company, is raising their own guidance in the last week. So that's Matson, a true secret stock for those of us who don't follow, the logistics business or the ocean transportation, and that's MATX. And then I want to finish up with one that is a little bit more well-known. Also in travel, I own this one in my own personal portfolio. It is talked about every once in a while, but it's still kind of a secret and is kind of ignored as well. And the only reason it's talked about is because its share price is now at $4,000. So this is Booking Holdings, ticker B as in boy, K as in king, N as in Nancy, G as in George. BKNG is the ticker, formerly known as Priceline, but it's been Booking for a lot of years now. So mostly we all know it as Booking now. And it is trading around $4,000. And that's why it is in the news right now with all of these split announcements by companies like Chipotle, Broadcom, and NVIDIA. You are getting a lot of questions about whether or not Booking Holdings will also soon announce a split. It is trading at its all-time highs, even as I record this, so it might be a candidate for such things. Now, this is not a small cap company. It has a market cap of $136 billion. They did start paying a dividend a couple of quarters ago, and so the dividend is now yielding 0.9%. But what is this earnings story looking like on Booking? For those of you who haven't looked, it's got the double-digit earnings growth back again, 17.3% this year, 18% for next year, and sales growth 8% and 8.5% for next year. So not quite double digits there, but price and consensus here. We're taking a look, and yes, it looks like a lot of our other charts, except for Matson, pretty much up and to the right. With 2026, we got some numbers in for that one now too, and that's looking even more bullish than what we're seeing here for 2025. So I'm liking this chart. That's why I like it, and it is hitting these new all-time highs finally after several years there during the pandemic of kind of treading water and then even pulling back a bit before it started rallying again. So year to date, up 13.1%. So that is underperforming the S&P 500, up 14.4%. So that part of the story might not seem like it's real red hot, but 2 years now, the 2-year stack, it's up 106%. So that's pretty impressive on the 2-year stack. And again, breaking out to these new all-time highs. It's not real expensive on a PE basis. That's why I feel like it also gets overlooked, even by those on the value-ish type side, because it's only trading at 22 times. That's not that expensive for a company doing double-digit earnings growth, and as well known as this one is. And it used to be the darling back in the day, even in the, certainly in the Priceline era and the dot-com era. But even more than a decade ago, it was still kind of on the darling side. And then the stock kind of did pause a bit for quite some period. But now, are we getting the breakout? Is it joining the growth game once again? We will see. But yeah, Booking Holdings back on the secret stock side of things. Hot stock, but nobody's really talking about it for Booking either. So that's what I wanted to cover this week on the podcast, because so much time and energy is going into the AI stocks and that story, as along with the Mag 7. And while that's a great story and there's great gains on those stocks, and I own some of those, I'm sure you own many or maybe all of them in your own personal portfolio. But if you're looking around for stocks with solid Zacks ranks, either of strong buys, or the holds, then, and you want them to be red hot, but not on the lips of everyone right now, then these are 5 names to keep on your short list. Watch these in the next earnings report. Maybe wait for a pullback on some of them. See if you can get in at a little bit better price. But the earnings growth is looking really good with a lot of these stocks right here. And that's what I'm looking for as an investor. I'm looking for, all the growth I can get at a decent valuation. Okay, so what were these stock tickers again? In case you weren't really writing them down, we had Burlington Stores. Yeah, a retailer. There were also several other retailers on this list trading, at or near their 52-week high, including Walmart. But Walmart, I feel like that one isn't really that much of a secret right now. So I didn't include it here. I chose Burlington Stores, ticker BURL. Then we had Cintas, the uniform maker. It just kind of does its thing and keeps hitting new highs. Nobody's really questioning it. Ticker CTAS. We had Hilton on the travel side. If you like the hotel, if you think people are ditching their Airbnbs and their Verbos, then Hilton may be for you. Ticker HLT for that one. Then we had Matson, the ocean transportation and logistics. That's an area nobody's really talking about. And so you might want to check it out. Ticker MATX with the number 1 rank there. Do we have any other number 1 ranks? Burlington was number 2. Cintas is number 2. Hilton number 3. Booking was also a number 3 hold. And Matson, again, only number 1. MATX is that ticker. Booking, BKNG is that ticker. And as always, I'm aiming to bring you as many stock picks as I can every week, trying to widen your horizons. I had that other podcast on the old economy stocks that were breaking out, but not too many of you were interested in that. I guess the old economy is still kind of out. But this is where you can find like hidden gems right now. And it just goes to show you with this podcast and the one I did on old economy, you don't have to be in the MAGA or in the Mag 7 stocks, these huge, magnificent 7 mega cap stocks to only have the big winners. There's these other ones like Cintas breaking out to new all-time highs that maybe you should keep on your radar because, there's money to be made in a lot of places and a lot of different companies, a lot of different industries. So I'm aiming to bring you those every week here on the Market Edge. And I'm hoping to have some guests on in the next couple of weeks. So be sure to subscribe to get all of our podcasts here. You can get them on YouTube at Zacks.com/YouTube. Get the audio on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. Just about anywhere you can get the podcasts, but get us somewhere. And I'll see you again next week with some more stocks.